Hello and welcome everyone to the Rage of the Abyss intro. Normally this is going to be a recorded video where you'll see me talking and then I'll toss over to Jerome and he'll introduce us to some cool strategies, but we decided to do it live this time. You know, it's been an incredible year. We're here at the Konami Studios where we started off this year with the quarter century celebration. It all took place right here, just right behind us. Jesse Cotton became the ultimate, undisputed Duelist Series winner. He went on to win YCS Sacramento, and now he's a Master Duel World Champion. So much has happened this year, and there's still so much more to come, including our last core booster of the year, Rage of the Abyss. It's going to be a really exciting one. I'm excited to be here. I'm Billy Brake, and as I mentioned, joining me is Jerome McHale.
This is a really fantastic set. I'm excited about so many cards from this set. I mean, there's cards for competitive duels, but there's one thing I really love is that for the people who are really into the animated series and the manga, there is just a ton of really cool cards for fans of Yu-Gi-Oh! As a whole in this set. And I think a great place to start with it is with the monster that you see at the front of every booster box here, Rage of the Abyss, that we had on our splash screen there. And that is the cover monster of the set, number C32, Shark Drake Levice. So let's take a look at a brief history of Shark Drake in general. So Shark Drake was originally used, believe it or not, by Trey in the Zexal series. It was kind of planted in his deck by Vetrix as part of his plan to get, make Shark evil again. So when Shark duels Trey, who is normally the Chronopoly duelist, you wouldn't expect Shark Drake in that sort of deck, he defeats him and gets a hold of Shark Drake. And then goes on to play against Quattro in the next round, who is the Gimmick Puppet duelist, who notably just had a bunch of Gimmick Puppets in the Infinite Forbidden just a couple of months ago. So during the duel against Quattro, he goes ahead and plays Shark Drake and starts to try to take a hold of his heart, as number monsters tend to do. And he gets rid of it for a while with the Different Dimension Deep Sea Trench, but eventually brings it back and then converts it into a Chaos number monster, which you see on the left, number C32, Shark Drake Vice. And it's kind of a neat bit of foreshadowing. If you know how the Zexal series turns out, the true origins of Shark and all of that, it's a really neat bit of foreshadowing early on in the series. And eventually Yuma is able to defeat him and purify the number, and it goes on to become a monster that Shark is able to use later. It's kind of a mainstay of his extra deck later on in the series. So that's where Shark Drake has been. Now let's take a look at where it's going with this new monster, number C32, Shark Drake Levice. Here it is, you can see it right there. So the original Shark Drake Vice was summoned kind of like Yuma's Utopia Ray, or he's able to just slap it on top and it stayed being rank 4. This one is closer, it's kind of a mix between that and the Barian rank ups that happened later. So the original rank ups, the monster keeps its rank. It doesn't actually rank up, it just changes. This time, it changes rank. It goes up to rank 5 like normal. But it's still a summon that you just do from the extra. You don't actually have to activate a spell card, but that part of it's kind of reflected. You can discard any spell card and place this monster on top of one of your Shark Drakes. So you can make Shark Drake, put Vice on top of that, and then use a spell to put this on top of that. And it retains some of the effects as well. So for example, you can attack multiple times to deal lots of damage. This could just attack twice. You can also zero out the attack points of an enemy monster as well. You can drop it to 0 and negate that monster's effects as a quick effect whenever you like. And there's no 1,000 or less life points restriction like the original Shark Drake Vice had either. And you can't even hide from this monster in defense position either, because it'll also deal piercing battle damage to the opponent. It starts off at a pretty mean 3,100 attack as well. So you can do a lot of damage with this card really fast. It's not that hard to make, especially if you use some of the other shark-related cards that are in Rage of the Abyss. If you take another look at the art there, you can even see that it's got design elements from the number 17 Leviathan Dragon, Shark's original number monster. Yep, there it is.
See with like the tail.
Right, the scales on the tail and all that sort of thing. This monster is really cool, especially if you're a fan of Zexal, because it kind of traces the entire arc of Shark's character throughout the show, both in its artwork and its effects. So I like this card a lot. It's a great cover monster for the set, and there's even more Shark cards in the set to take a look at as well. In fact, you've summoned a lot of Leviathan Dragons in your time, haven't you? Wasn't that kind of like your era?
Yeah, 2011 was a pretty big year for me as a TCG player. Yeah, the number 17 Leviathan Dragon, one of the go-to rank 3 monsters from the start, as you mentioned. Huge anime tie-ins, but also one of the stronger monsters with Tour Guide from the Underworld. Being able to go into that 2,000 attack, detach material, immediately have 2,500 on that first turn was quite impressive, back in the day.
It wasn't quite one of the first Xyz monsters, because the starter deck came out first with Utopia and the like. But it was part of the first set Generation Force that had Xyz monsters in it. In fact, there were 8 of them in total in that. And let's just see if your memory works very well. Why don't we play a little quiz right now? We've got the Generation Force Xyz Monster Quiz. And you can play at home as well. Just don't even think about using the card database, or I'll know. All right, so there were 8 total. We gave you number 17 Leviathan Dragon for free. And let's see. Turn this way. I'm going to keep my eyes on you. Make sure you're not using the card database either.
No.
All right.
Let's see.
So see if you can identify these Xyz monsters from Generation Force. Here's the first clue. This Wind Aqua monster was once a crucial component of a popular Dark Warrior deck.
Wind Aqua. So that typing pretty much gives it away. I'm going to think about Dark Warrior. There's definitely a lot of Dark Warriors. Armageddon Knight's going to be one of my first go-to thoughts of that. But when you see Dark Warrior deck, I'm thinking about strategy. What's a Dark Warrior? I got to go Phantom Knights on that one. Phantom Knights do like to banish themselves. There is a Water Wind Xyz in Generation Force that loves to special summon from the banish pile. It's got to be Leviair the Sea Dragon.
It is, in fact, Leviair the Sea Dragon. And you are correct. It was used to special summon back those level 3 Phantom Knights back in the day. So Silent Boots, Ancient Cloak, all that good stuff. Next. This rank 3 monster was the very first monster to be Xyz summoned in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal.
Ooh, this one's tough. First one in Zexal. Rank 3, I know Shark has one of the earliest duels. I'm going to go back with that number 17 Leviathan Dragon. I think that might have to be one of the first ones.
See, that's what you'd think, because it is in fact used in his first duel with Yuma. However, that is not correct. In fact, that is not the first duel shown in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. So this is... I had to go back and rewatch the episode for this one. This is a little tough. So if you go about like halfway through the episode or so, when Yuma is looking through the schoolyard, he's trying to find somebody to duel, and he comes across Shark, who's dueling against Bronk at the time. And in that duel, Shark Xyz summons Submersible Carrier Arrow Shark.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have ever gotten Submersible
Arrow Shark to finish him off.
That's a good one, though. Good card.
Arrow Shark, yep. All right, next. So you're 1-1 here.
I'll take it.
This card is a member of a theme with 4 Xyz monsters to its name, but only this one is a rank 4.
4 Xyz monsters. This one's a rank 4, so it's a themed Xyz monster out of Generation Force. I don't think the rest of the themed Xyz monsters were probably in this set. Maybe came in a later set. I mean, I know this one already. I'm just giving the crowd at home a time to kind of come up with it, but it's definitely a card that was underrated, saw some play. Being able to flip your own monsters face down kind of could be useful in a lot of strategies back then. I'm going to go on Wind Up Zen Meister.
It is, in fact, Wind Up Zen Meister.
I know all about the Wind Up toys.
The other monsters were rank 3s. 2 of them came out in the next consecutive sets. So there was Wind Up Zen Mighty, as well as Wind Up Zen Mines.
Oh, that one was big. It shaped the competitive scene for a while.
Those are the 2 rank 3s. Then there was the rank 5, the Arsenal Zenmayo.
Zenmayo.
Zenmayo. All right, 2-1, doing well. Next. It's the only Xyz monster from Generation Force with more than 1 art version.
This one's a funny one.
I'll tell you that it's not Leviathan Dragon. You might think it's Leviathan Dragon, but that has an Astral Language version, not an alternate art.
Same art, different language for Leviathan Dragon. No, this one is going to be a card that I tried to make work in a lot of different decks, because it has a good effect where you can take your opponent's monsters, but the requirement for the 3 level 3s usually end up being a bit too much. But that's going to be number 34, Terabyte.
It is, in fact, Terabyte. It has the normal one as well as the standing one as well that came in the premium collection tin. That's where that came out.
I remember that.
All right. Here's a bit of a history-related one.
Oh,
This Xyz monster debuted over a month before the rest of the theme it belongs to. So it was the only member of its theme for over a month.
Oh man, only member of the theme for over a month and is an Xyz out of Generation Force, and it was the only one. Yeah, this one's stumping me. I think I don't think I'm gonna get this one. I'm gonna have to phone a friend.
I can give you a further clue.
Or I'll take another clue. Sure.
It's a rank 4.
In my head, I already had it as a rank 4 from Generation Force.
Maybe not useful.
Oh! I think I know it. So, was this theme popular?
No.
Oh, okay. But was there a version of this? Was there an
This
evil?
card was popular.
This card was popular. Okay, and there was an evil version of this
There was,
theme.
yes.
Steel Storm Roach.
It was, in fact, Steel Swarm Roach. The rest of the Steel Swarm monsters debuted over a month later as part of the 5th Dual Terminal set.
That one was tricky. That one was a little tricky.
And then the final one is a twofer. This one's pretty easy. I think everybody's going to get this one. But this pair of rank 5 Xyz monsters appeared together on the 2011 Judge Reward game mat.
Well, I played.
I'm pretty sure you own this game mat.
Yes, I love these cards. I played on this game mat in 2011 for a little bit. I mean, I switch my mats up all the time, but this was one of the ones that I was drawn to these cards based on their artwork, and they looked fantastic on the game mat. I actually had a deck with these cards when Generation Force first came out. The top decks were like Gravekeepers and Six Samurais, which we might be talking about a little bit later. But they were all playing like level 5s like Sheehan. The legendary Six Samurai Sheehan was level 5. So I made a deck with Cyber Dragons. The only wind-up main deck monsters at the time were Dog and Soldier. And basically what they do is become level 5s.
There's Juggler.
Oh, and Juggler. I forgot about Juggler. But I was focused on the making themselves level 5s, that modulation.
Got it.
So you go like Cyber Dragon, wind up Soldier, and then you could overlay into a rank 5. Or you can Puppet Plant their Sheehan and also make a rank 5. And that rank 5 is Tyrus, Keeper of Genesis, and Adreus, Keeper of Armageddon.
Those are the two. Very well done. Only one miss, and we'll call the Steel Storm one a draw.
It was close.
We'll call that one a draw.
The theme thing throws you off, because I mean, it is part of that Steel Storm theme, but you never think of Steel Storm Roach as being a Steel Storm monster.
Exactly.
But it was a good
It's just got nothing to do with anything else, because it's more tribute summer related, that thing. So that is our Generation Force Xyz Monster Quiz.
How did you do?
Hope you had fun with that. We got another game coming up just a little later on that you might want to try out. But first, let's talk about this new theme from Rage of the Abyss called Primite. The Primite theme. So this is a theme based on this monster here, the Primite Imperial Dragon. It is a really cool looking card, and it's got a very powerful ability too that can blank out an entire field full of monster effects and then banish monsters that share a type or an attribute with any normal monster in the graveyard. So let's take a look at the card real fast here. This is a level 6 monster, so it's a tribute monster. You have to tribute summon it by tributing a normal monster. And then during your opponent's main phase, you can reveal it from your hand and then use its effect to tribute summon any Primite monster, actually. So if there's another one in the future, maybe you could summon that. But normally it's going to be the Primite Imperial Dragon here. And you can only use that once per turn. Now, if it's tribute summoned, you can apply these effects. The first one is that it negates the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent controls, so that's always good. And then you can banish all monsters your opponent controls with the same type or attribute as a normal monster in your graveyard. And that's all cumulative, so the more normal monsters you have in the graveyard, the more different things you can banish. And because it's type or attribute, you don't necessarily need to play as many different normal monsters as you might in, say, Magic Key, which only looks at attribute. So you'd want to have at least one normal monster of every relevant attribute, at least. So Magic Key can get kind of like filled up with those normal monsters. It's a little tougher to use, but Primite's very compact. And part of what makes it work so well is this next card that we're going to take a look at called Primite Lordly Load. Now this is also gorgeous.
Beautiful.
This is a spell card that lets you, well, it does a lot of different things. So it's a continuous spell card. It gets to stick around on the field and do its thing every turn. So if we take a look at the card here, you'll see that when it is activated, the first thing you get to do is just add a Primite card from your deck to your hand. Nice. Not even just a monster, just any card. It could be a spell or a trap, and they have spells and traps as well. It's just these are the only two we're going to look at for right now. But a lot of times you're just going to be fetching the Primate Imperial Dragon out of your deck and add that to your hand. The second thing, and this is one of my favorite effects in anything in this set, is that you can declare any normal monster card name and then special summon it from your hand, deck, or graveyard in defense position.
That's a lot of options.
It's a significant number of options. If you go into the card database, you're allowed to use it now, by the way. I no longer know whether or not you're doing it. You can go into the card database and just hit all the normal monsters, and there's a lot of them. There's probably even more in Master Duel that haven't made it to a physical release yet either. So you summon from your transposition, and you can't activate the effects of special summoned monsters on the field this turn. So you can't use it beforehand either, because it's this turn, not the rest of this turn. But it's any normal monster that you want. And then normal monsters and Primite monsters also gain 300 for each normal monster with a different name in your graveyard. So you might want multiple different ones. In fact, you're probably going to need multiple different ones, at least enough to kind of cover your bases in terms of what you want to banish with Primite Imperial Dragon. And that's going to lead into our next little game. So obviously it's professional football season now. It's college football season as well. And I hope that everybody enjoyed the video from Jamal and George that we showed at the World Championship. If you haven't seen it yet, that's on our page. You can take a look at it afterwards. Really good. But in honor of football season, my team's 3-0.
Well, it was the first time in a while.
It's first time in a few years my team's 3-0. Another thing we do a lot around football season is fantasy drafts. So True. I figure we should do a Primite normal monster draft. So I'm going to ask you to put on your general manager hat. I'm going to put on my president of normal monster operations hat. And we're going to do just a quick draft of, let's go 3 normal monsters that you might want to play in your Primite deck to try to get as much coverage as possible without diluting the draws in your deck. So I will give you the first pick. Which normal monster would you like?
Well, I'm going to assume we're going to not look at the Anotherverse selection of cards because that's pretty...
You don't have any.
Yeah, I don't know any, but I would. If you do want to go check out Anotherverse Dragon, Anotherverse Glutonia, and Anotherverse Solaria, all excellent targets, because not only are you going to be showing off, but they have a pretty good type and attribute distribution. But ignoring those cards because I don't have them, I would love to get my hands on one day. But so you're wanting to look at types and attributes. So I mean, right now I know a lot of the attributes a lot of people are looking at are fire for sure, because lots of fire cards out there, Promethean Princess, all sorts of things you want to get banished, not have to deal with them. So I'm going to go with a fun one, but it's also solid. Okay. Something from the Pegasus versus Yugi duel in the first series, and that's going to be Ryu-Ran. I know a lot of the older players definitely remember having some sort of like nostalgia, kind of an attachment to that card, because it's one of like the bigger monsters you ever saw like as a kid, where you're like, oh man, I can actually get my hands on this card. But yeah, I'm going with Ryu-Ran. It's a fire dragon. He's in an egg. Looks like something bad's about to happen. I'm going Ryu-Ran as my first pick.
I think he's hatching.
Yeah, he's like,
that's what's happening there. He's hatching a little bit. All right, so you've got a fire dragon, so you can take out Fire Kings and Snake Eyes and that sort of thing. Tenpai dragons. Well, they're all fire dragons. They're double hosed.
Yeah, the fire.
They're in a bad way with Ryu-Ran there. I think a fire monster as a first pick it's kind of a given. You have to, given that so many of the most powerful decks right now are fire decks. However, there's one thing that I think your Ryu-Ran pick misses. And I'm glad you didn't pick this other monster, because there's only one normal monster in the game that matches the attribute and type combination that I want here. Okay. So I want something that can hit Snake Eye and Fire King and Tenpai Dragon and Yubel. Oh. So I need a Fire Fiend. Good. There's only one, and it's Dokuro Yaiba from Pharaoh Servant.
No, that little flaming skull.
The little flame one, yep. It's a level 3 Fire Fiend monster. So you could even summon it with Tour Guide if you wanted to add some rank 3s into your deck that way, and maybe not have to use Primate Lordly Load there. But that, I think, gives me the best coverage of all of the main decks with just one monster, is Dokuro Yaiba. So I'm going to take that as my first pick.
Yeah, if I could say its name, I probably would have picked it as well. Just kidding, Dokuro Yaiba. Well, now that I've heard you say it, but that is an excellent. Yaiba. That's definitely an excellent pick, and I want to keep it out there. Going to go dust off some of my old cards and see if I can find one of those.
It was in LC 25th. Right? Oh, Pharaoh Servant was back for that.
That's right. Yeah, Pharaoh Servant did just have that recent, somewhat recent release now, so definitely probably have those lying around somewhere, or I can ask one of my friends who might have one as well. But second pick now to me, right?
Second pick.
So second pick, I know when I'm looking at this, I used Yu-Gi-Oh! Neuron. In Yu-Gi-Oh! Neuron, you can go through, filter normal monsters by the type you want, the attribute you want. Then you can be like, just show me the highest attack one, or you can show me the lowest attack one, so it can be something you can normally summon. But this one isn't a card I've ever used before. and I believe it is out one of the starter decks, and that's Suppression Collider.
Suppression Collider. That's one of the cybers.
Yep, Dark Cybers, because I'm always worried about those Cybers pile strategies. I want to make sure I have something that can wipe those out. They fill up the graveyard pretty quickly. They put a lot of monsters on the field, and usually when you get those monsters off the field, they don't have too many ways to keep extending their plays past that. So yeah, I definitely want a Cybers in my deck, and Suppression Colliders I think it might be one of the stronger ones, at least according to what I looked up on Yu-Gi-Oh! Neuron when it comes with that attribute and type.
Yeah, in terms of attack and defense, it's kind of big. It's a level 8, right?
Yep.
So it's fairly huge. Yeah, dark monsters, always good to get rid of, I would say. Cybers monsters, so one of the interesting things with Cybers is that it's a type that a lot of decks only get access to from their extra deck. But a lot of those cards are really nasty, so it might be worth negating their effects and getting them off the field. So for me, when I'm thinking about normal monsters in my deck, I always want something that has some kind of other utility. So Dokuro Yaiba is just kind of the perfect first pick because it's, it hits all the things I want, and it's level 3, so I could add a different extra package of, the tour guide to my deck and get access to different extra deck things that way. So I'm going to lean kind of that same way with my second pick as well, and I'm going to pick Psyframe Driver.
Everyone wants a driver, yeah.
I'm going to draw it every time, so maybe I'm not going to get to summon it out of the deck with Lordly Load. But by adding Psyframe Driver to my deck, not only does it give me what I need for the Primite monsters, it also lets me use Psyframes. So when I go second, for instance, I can have the 1 Gamma, I can have something to knock out spells.
Delta, yeah.
If I need it, Delta. I think, and it's light and psychic, so you can also take out a bunch of, say, ritual beasts, for instance, if you needed to, and it keeps them temporarily gone anyways. So I think I'm going to go with Psyframe Driver as my second pick.
Yep. I like that. I like that. I think light is the attribute that I overlooked on my draft here for this one, but definitely key to have that around. Also, just the fact that you can play Gamma, it kind of just works itself way right into it. I really like that pick. That's one of my favorites for sure. But last pick, going on the route where I'm going to be talking about Rage of the Abyss. We got new water strategies. We haven't got there yet, but obviously you've seen the cover card is the new Shark Drake Vice. And there's also plenty of other water monsters in the Abyss to be discovered. So I'm going to go with the Water Worm, and it's, basically a normal monster strategy already, and that's the Phantasm Spiral Dragon. Obviously, that whole theme kind of works with cards while you have a normal monster. When a monster is summoned, you can actually do sort of different things. So it's kind of along the same line of what else can I do with this normal monster that I'm summoning from my deck. And I think Phantasm is probably a Water Worm. Also has a lot of good coverage as well. So if you don't have dragons, you're going to take out those dragon-adjacent worm monsters. Or, plenty of water monsters to be going after as well.
Worm's an interesting one, just in case, the Tenyi show up again, or Sword Soul, or anything like that. Having a worm monster could be really helpful there. I've noticed all of your picks are really huge monsters. Like, they're all level 7 or 8.
Yeah, I'm trying to summon a big monster from my deck for free. I'm not worried about drawing it.
I'm a little worried about drawing because I do it all the time. So Psyframe Driver is probably as the biggest risk assessment, risk that I'm willing to take there. So for me, I also picked a water monster as well. I've seen all the cards of Rage of the Abyss. I know there's a lot of really good water monsters that I would like to banish. That I'm also going to stick with the idea of having a normal monster that could do something else for me when I summon it out of the deck, even if I can't use special summon monster effects that turn. And I'm going to take Guard Dragon Justicia. Guard Dragon Justicia. It's a level 2 Water Dragon Tuner monster. So I have a way to summon a tuner out of my deck. It's a dragon. Not every dragon out there is going to be a fire monster. I'm going to run into that one Blue Eyes player, right? And still make sure that I have a dragon to take out all of their stuff. And obviously, we're going to talk about water monsters a little more, so that's pretty obvious too. But I think that is going to be my third pick there. So, your picks, just to sum it up, you had Ryuran, Suppression Collider, and then Phantasm Spiral Dragon. And I picked Dokuro Yaiba, Psyframe Driver, and Guard Dragon Justicia. I think my draft is way better, personally. I know you like yours, but if you have an opinion on which draft is better, we'd love to hear it. Go ahead and post that to our official accounts with hashtag Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, and we will take a look at them and argue about it over lunch later.
again.
Again.
That's the best part about the cards. I really like that you can really get any normal monster. You can pick your favorite normal monster and just build a deck around it, because you can always summon it from your deck and then kind of construct a strategy. It's pretty fun. It's a really cool thing. I mean, I know the first time we read that card, and we're like, oh, just any normal monster. Well, Blue Eyes White Dragon.
As long as you know the name.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then, like I mentioned at the beginning, I love how it interacts with the Anotherverse cards as well, because there's nothing more flashy than summoning an ultra rare copy of like Anotherverse Solaria. I'm looking at you, Jesse Cotton. I know you have it out there from when NYCS Sacramento. Now is your time to play your Anotherverse Primite strategy. You might be one of the only people in the world that has won each one of those along the way.
All right. So moving along in terms of Rage of the Abyss, for the rest of this week, we're going to have videos from some of our partnered content creators explaining in depth some of the other themes that you're going to see throughout the set. So we're going to take just a quick spin through and let you know what to expect for the rest of the week, starting with Six Samurai, one of your favorites.
That's right, Jerome. I do love Six Samurais. I remember they've gotten multiple waves of support throughout the years, and now they're back at it again with some incredible new cards, including Legendary Lord Six Samurai Sheehan. Those of you who are familiar with Legendary Six Samurai Sheehan, he negated spells and traps. Legendary Lord can also negate monster effects, so you're going to learn a lot more about that later on in the week. But you know, Six Samurai, it's always been incredibly popular. It was even included in the Chronicles animation. That's something, if you haven't seen, you want to go check out. We also have that on YouTube, but you can see that Six Samurai monsters come to life in that really cool animation that we have. But the new crop of Six Samurai cards is headlined by the Legendary Lord Six Samurai Sheehan, and which is an incredibly powerful new synchro monster. Now, you can learn more about it and the other Six Samurai cards in Rage of the Abyss later this week from Pheromone. As Joe mentioned, later this week, Pheromone will be doing an in-depth look into the Six Samurai cards, and there's a lot more to be discovered as well, so make sure you keep an eye out for Pheromone's video coming up this week.
All right, I'm going to look forward to that myself as well. And then coming up after that, we're going to get into the latest in the developments of the storyline involving Diabellstar the Black Witch and the Sinful Spoils. So, here's where we are so far. In Legacy of Destruction, Diabellze showed up, and a lot of things went very wrong very fast. Then we had a flashback in Infinite Forbidden to, well, who knows? Whose memories are those? And now we come back to the present day, where Diabellstar has been imprisoned alongside the Goblin Bikers. So she's in jail along with the Goblin Bikers, and she's going to have to accept help from her former pursuers if she's going to want to get out of this. You can see her there in the background here. This is Goblin Biker Grand Crisis.
I didn't even notice her. It was like a Where's Waldo kind of
Yeah,
thing.
she's just kind of chilling back there while everybody else is freaking out. Always calm and composed, usually. But, so there's Goblin Bikers in this set as well. And actually, Pheromone is going to be taking a look at those too during his video as well. So it's kind of the warrior type videos. So, moving on, she has to go ahead and break out with the help of the Goblin Bikers. You can see her there, again, in the corner, kind of surprised at the way in which they were able to drill through the walls there. But there's a reason that she's in jail with the Goblin Bikers. And frankly, no matter how far or how long you run, you cannot outrun your past. And that is what Diabellstar is going to learn here in this set. And you're going to be able to add some of these cards to your deck as well once Rage of the Abyss comes out. There's the new Azamina monsters, which are extra deck monsters. They're all fusion monsters, as well as some Sinful Spoils that go with them. Here's another one as well. If you take a close look at these,
what happened to my wolves?
Some of them might look a little familiar, like some older monsters that you might have seen in the set prior. I wonder what that's about. Well, moving on, we'll just have to figure out, what are they? How did they get here? Diabellstar seems like she's escaped, but something else is there with her as well. There's a lot of strange things afoot out there in the rain. Horrible transformations kind of just taking over characters that you might recognize from a previous set and turning them into these unknowing monsters. As we head along and see what effects the Sinful Spoils have on them. And we can't forget about Diabellze as well. This whole thing was kind of triggered by her sudden reappearance in Legacy of Destruction. What exactly is her role here? We'll have to find that out as well. And you'll be able to learn all about all of these things later this week. I've got a video by Rev's Cards. Who's going to be taking a look at all of these later this week, but not the Gobblebiker. So the Gobblebiker is going to be with Pheromone, along with the Six Samurai, and then Rev's is going to take a look at all of these Azumina cards as well as the Sinful Spoils in the deck. These cards are really powerful, and they're really cool looking as well, so make sure you don't miss that video. It's going to be a good one.
That's right. And now moving on, we still have more things to look at. This is something that I'm really excited. I know a lot of people who followed me as a player knew that back in the day I did play a lot of Mermails, a lot of Atlanteans, and now they're back here with Rage of the Abyss. With
we're finally getting some water monsters, right? We've all these light monsters, dark monsters, earth monsters, samurai monsters, but now we're going to get some honest to goodness water monsters. And if you're wondering, why are we making sure to get those water monsters as part of our normal monster draft earlier? This is going to be why that's the case.
Yeah, definitely. Because, I mean, these cards aren't just like new cards that you might use. They're incredible cards that really elevate old strategies like Mermail. So let's go ahead and take a look at the artwork of some of the cards that we're going to be seeing for the Atlanteans and the Mermails in Rage of the Abyss. In fact, not only are there Atlanteans and Mermails, some of them count as both, including Abyss Shrine, the Atlantean Spirit. Very beautiful card. You can see her with that treasure there. And not all these monsters will make it easier to find the monsters you need when you need them. You're going to also have Mermail, Shadow Squad, looking awesome. I mean, some of this is my bias for the Mermail cards, but I think they look incredible. And you're going to learn more about these cards this week and how they're going to fit into the Atlantean Mermail decks from MST.TV. He's going to have a video about these cards that is going up on Tuesday.
I think it's a good fit for him, right? He really enjoys strategies like this where you can do a lot of different stuff and really just take it to your opponent.
Yeah, it is a pretty big combo deck. You can do a lot of crazy things. I've seen, when we were playtesting some of the cards, you could get a bunch of totally awesomes onto the field. Besides the Abyss is another really cool card, really incorporating the strategies together and how they're going to fit into our current meta.
But that's not the, the whole thing is that they have this whole war going on, right, between the Atlanteans and the Fire Kings, right?
Oh,
so it's a little unfair, right, if we're only representing one side of the conflict, right?
Yep, so here it is. That's right. We can't just move on without forgetting about this feud. Rage of the Abyss might be the Atlantean territory, but that's not stopping our powerful new Fire King. That's right. It's Fire King Courtier, or Courtier, depending where you're from, Alconix, from joining the fray in this set. This card is going to take Fire Kings really to the next level. If you just normal summon Fire King Courtier Alconix, you can destroy a fire monster in your hand. Add the legendary Fire King Ponix to your hand. Since a fire was destroyed, you can special summon that Ponix. The Ponix can get you Fire King Sanctuary, which gets you to Fire King Island. The Fire King Island can then destroy the Alconix on the field to add the Sacred Grunix. Alconix can then use her effect when she's destroyed to summon, that's right, the original Fire King High Avatar Grunix from your deck to the field. Then the Grunix will summon from your hand to the field. You can then destroy Fire King High Avatar Arvata to special summon back that Alconix. And just from starting with that one Alconix, you now have 4 monsters on your field and plenty of ways to go. You can go into Promethean Princess, bring back the Arvata, so you're going to have some protection from monster effects. And then you could use cards like Diabellstar, Wanted, Bonfire, Original Sinful Spoils, and continue your strategy from there as well. It's really a big game changer for the Fire King strategy, so you're not going to want to miss out on getting your hands on Fire King Courtier Alconix. And those of you who play Master Duel already know how good this card is, as it is in Master Duel.
I could tell that you've played a lot of Master Duel. I can tell.
Yeah, I've done the combos a few times. And that's just one of the many things you can do with her. Like, it's a very versatile card. Being able to destroy a fire to add any Fire King, really flexible. You can also add Kier into your hand to kind of protect you from monster effects. Really depends on how you draw. And I mean, that's the kind of decks I like, where you have the utility, where one card can do many different things depending on the scenario or how you have the cards in your hand. But yeah, really, as you mentioned, if you watch the World Championship, I am a big Fire King fan, so I'm really excited that she is finally making her debut here in Rage of the Abyss.
I'm glad that we were able to get it in here into this set, and also pair her off against the Atlanteans as well, since they've got that connection.
Yeah, it's another reason, yeah, why I got the Phantasm Spiral Dragon, or no, yes, that's the one, right?
Spiral Dragon.
Yeah, the flavor text is a ferocious serpent that was being hunted by the Atlanteans. So also gets in with the lore there a little bit.
All right, so I promised at the start that this is going to be a great set for fans of the various Yu-Gi-Oh! Animated series. And we've talked about Zexal with the shark cards, and now we're going to go back to the original series for a little bit with a new theme that centers on kind of reimagining the semi-final duel from Duelist Kingdom between Joey and Bandit Keith. So this is the so-called Heavy Metal Raiders duel, where Joey faces off against Keith's machine monsters. And the spell cards won't work, because in Duelist Kingdom, machine monsters had protection from spells. And it's all based around this card you see right here called Max Metalmorph. If you remember in that duel, Bandit Keith used a card called Metalmorph that turned his monsters into metallic machine versions of themselves. And this theme works kind of like that. If we take a look at the card itself, the way Max Metalmorph works is that it tributes one of your face-up monsters, and then it special summons a monster that can't be normal summoned or set and mentions this card in its text from your hand, deck, or graveyard. And then instead of going to the graveyard, it equips to itself, kind of like the original Metalmorph did. Now that monster is going to gain 400 attack and defense points, and then it gets kind of the machine protections as seen in Duelist Kingdom, where it can't be destroyed by spell or monster effects. Your opponent can't target it with monster effects or spell cards or effects as well. So you're going to get out a new powerful monster, and it's going to come with all of these protections added onto it. So to take a look at how this works, let's take a look at this next card, Metal Zoa X. So Metal Zoa X is a machine, and it has to be summoned with Max Metalmorph that tributes a level 5 or higher Fiend monster. So the original Zoa, for instance, is a level 5 or higher Fiend monster. If you were to use Max Metalmorph on it, you could change it into this machine version of it, called Metal Zoa X. Now, one of the things that's nice about this theme is that a lot of the cards have redundancy to it. You can always get Max Metalmorph when you need it, because the monsters can be revealed from your hand to set a Metalmorph trap from your deck, any of them, and then you shuffle the monster itself back into your deck so that you can summon it back later on. Because when they're in your hand, they don't really do a whole lot, but you can just put them back in the deck, get out the Max Metalmorph, and then summon it out of the deck when you need to. So Metal Zoa X, for instance, twice per turn if your opponent uses a monster effect or a spell card or effect, as a quick effect, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls and destroy it. And it's got plenty of attack points as well, sitting at 3,000 on its own, and it's going to get the Metalmorph boost up to 3,400. And hey, if you want to, you could stick the regular Metalmorph in there as well to give it another 300 and half the attack of whatever it's battling as well. I used to like Metalmorph a lot. I thought Metalmorph was just one of the coolest trap cards.
It was really sweet.
So the way that all of this is going to get set off is because of our next card called Metal Illusionist. Metal Illusionist. And this card, as you can see from taking a look at it, is based on Copycat, Joey's Copycat. So if you remember how the duel went in the original Duelist Kingdom, and you take a little close look there in the center of the art, you can see a little Easter egg that kind of explains how this card was used in the duel, and also how you're going to use it here as well. So Metal Illusionist, when it's normal or special summon, you get to set any Metalmorph trap from your deck. Then, if Max Metalmorph is already in your graveyard, you can draw a card. So if you already used a copy of it, or you got a second copy, you can get an extra card off of this. Notice that it increases its level by 4 during your opponent's turn. That'll make it level 5, which means you contribute it for Max Metalmorph and get one of these monsters. And then you can declare another monster type to change its type as well. So for example, if we wanted to make Metal Zoa X, we would declare Fiend, and then during our opponent's turn, it would become a level 5, and it's still a Fiend, because it's until the end of your opponent's turn, and then you tribute it off to summon Metal Zoa X, and there you go. You got Metal Zoa X. So this card is extremely important to the strategy as a whole.
So it can act like any sort of fulfillment role that you need to get out that metal monster that you need.
Exactly. So like any metal monster that you make either in this set or in future sets, you can just change Metal Illusionist to whatever type it has to be, and then you can get the Max Metalmorph as well, and everything is golden.
Really cool card.
Now, what's kind of the payoff for this, you might ask? Well, we've already seen Metal Zoa X. Now let's take a look at the Joey portion of the equation, which is Red Eyes Black Full Metal Dragon, our next card. It's very angry, as you can see there, but it's also a really cool monster as well, and it's really powerful to boot. So it starts off at 3,400 attack points before you even equip the Max Metalmorph onto it. and you have to tribute a level 5 or higher dragon monster with max Metamorph in order to summon this. It also has the same effect as the other ones, where you can put it back in the deck and set a Metamorph trap. But the key part of this is that it acts kind of like a Borreload Savage Dragon type effect. If your opponent activates a card or effect, you can negate the activation, but instead of destroying anything, what you do instead is you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the original attack of one attack position monster that they control. So it's not any attack position monster on the field. You can't just use it to fire off 3,800 or whatever at your opponent whenever you like. But, well, let's say they summon, Stratos.
The classic go-to.
They summon Stratos or anything like Stratos, activate its effect. You can negate the activation and hit them for that monster's attack points.
Pretty strong.
Original attack points.
And I like that the Metamorph, max Metamorph requirement is the level 5 or higher dragon. There's a lot of good level 5 or higher dragons. So you can really just kind of splash this into any sort of dragon strategies you already have that might have like the Bestials or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, is that anything that has a Bestial can suddenly turn into Red Eyes Black Full Metal Dragon. So you might even see this in decks that aren't necessarily the max Metamorph deck.
Cool.
As just like a side package. It's so easy to get max Metamorph out of your deck. You only really need to play one of them, because any monster you want to summon with it can set it directly from your deck instead.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think that's a huge advantage of the strategy. You don't have to worry about drawing a card that's useless in your hand. Can always make it useful. Really like that.
So I wouldn't be shocked if you see that card moving forward. It's a really cool one. It starts at 3,400, goes to 38, does a lot of damage, negates things.
Love to negate things.
That's what was...
That's the Jamal
Williams
yeah,
agrees. He loves to negate things.
That was my favorite part. I mean, I won't spoil the whole interview, but his response to what kind of player he is, not to spoil it, but yeah, it's so good. If you haven't watched the Kittle and Jamal Williams video just quite yet, you should go check that out after this video, of course, because you definitely don't want to miss the end of this video, because we still have plenty of surprises to come. But our next thing we're going to talk about is going to be the Invincible Engine of Destruction. That's right, there is a new monster who may look familiar to you, and that is going to be the Heart of the Blue Eyes.
Moving from Red Eyes to Blue Eyes.
Hey, if it works, it works. I love seeing like these cards that I love from being a kid, getting new ways to work with. I mean, there's always been so many different Blue Eyes cards, but this one doesn't really work with the other Blue Eyes cards. It works with the Millennium Aunt cards.
This is a very special Blue Eyes.
It's a very special Blue Eyes. It's the very first appearance of the Duel Monsters game, as well as the introduction of Seto Kaiba, happened in the 9th chapter of the original Yu-Gi-Oh manga. In this chapter, there's a similar scene of the first episode of the anime series where Kaiba tries to trade an entire briefcase full of cards for Grandpa's Blue Eyes White Dragon. This stands out for me because that's where you learn that it's not about the value of the card, it's what the card means to you more than anything, and that is still true to this day. This is the Blue Eyes card that inspired this Heart of the Blue Eyes. In that manga chapter, Grandpa explains the things you really treasure grow your hearts of their own, and he's proven right in Yugi's first duel against Kaiba. When the stolen Blue Eyes White Dragon chooses to destroy itself rather than follow Kaiba's order to attack.
It's a really good chapter. So we actually have all of the Yu-Gi-Oh manga here in the R&D room, and that's a chapter I go back to quite a bit.
It's a good one. That's right. And the powerful monster features many references to the very first duel. Try rereading the chapter and seeing how many you can find. As you mentioned, it's filled with so many call-outs, so many Easter eggs here for our cards in Rage of the Abyss. Definitely want to try and check that out. And also, on top of it being a beautiful secret rare in the set, you can also win a game mat featuring Heart of the Blue Eyes at regional tournaments during the Rage of the Abyss season, and that starts October 12th and 13th, right after the set comes out as well. So if you want to get your hands on that card, and also a beautiful game mat featuring Heart of the Blue Eyes, now's your chance to do that.
Yeah, this season's been going really fast. It feels like just yesterday when Infinite Forbidden released.
It feels like just yesterday when Phantom Nightmare came out to me. I was talking about, we were just in here, I feel like, with Jesse winning the UUDS, and that was literally right after Phantom Nightmare came out. And
oh, it was, huh? It was like a week later.
Yep, and now we're here talking about Rage of the Abyss. It's just been fantastic. We have so much going on. But before we wrap this up with something incredible that you're going to want to pay attention to, we're going to take a quick break before our final segment where we're going to reveal the
brand new Mimigul cards.
Yep.
All of the new Mimigul cards. They're coming up next. But first, we're going to take a quick break, and don't go away.
Hello and welcome back, everyone. Thanks for that quick, little charming break. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a nice little soothing, relaxing.
I'm relaxed.
I'm relaxed. I feel better now. But I hope you had fun with us this week, or today, I guess. It's not really a weekend. Used to doing the YCS shows where I'm always on live stream being like, this weekend, this is happening. It's been a great weekend, but it's Monday. Mondays can be good if you let them be.
This is the best Monday I've had in a while.
Yeah,
I gotta say. As far as Mondays go, it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us here. It's been great, but now it's time to learn about some new cards you don't know what they do quite just yet. Jerome is going to be kind enough to talk about the second wave of the Mimigul cards. So Jerome, I'll let you kind of take it away.
All right, let's get back into the dungeon. So, the way the Mimigul theme works in general is that they have level 1 flip monsters that you special summon to your opponent's side of the field face down. And then when they flip up in the main phase, they do something horrible to your opponent and then come scurrying back to you. Now in this set, we've got 3 new level 1 flip monsters, as well as 2 extra deck monsters. And I'll tell you right now that they are Xyz monsters. That's going to be really important as we go through these first few cards, starting with Mimigul Armor. So if you take a look, let's look at the bottom first, where it says, during your main phase, you can special summon this card from hand to your opponent's field and face down defense position. But instead of having a completely separate effect, like the first wave of them does, what it has instead is a condition where you can special summon it to your field face up instead. That's important for accumulating materials to make these Xyz summons. The Xyz monsters are really good, so you're going to want to make sure that you have those materials available, and you can do it even if you go second, for instance, because that's one of the areas where the Mimigul deck can suffer a lot. It's very good going first, but it has some trouble going second, and being able to special summon some monsters to your field face up helps a lot with that. So if your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon this card face up on your field instead. As for the flip effect part of Mimigul Armor, this card focuses on survivability. So basically, if you go first, for instance, you want to set up, then you want to live for a turn, and then you want to be able to swing back and finish the duel as quickly as possible. And Mimigul Armor helps you with the survival part. When it flips face up, Mimigul monsters cannot be destroyed by battle for this entire turn, and then it comes back over to your side of the field. It's also got high defense points, as you can see down there, 1,500. So with the dungeon in play, the attack points will shoot up to 2,100 once your turn comes around, and above 2,000 is an important number, as we will see later. And if you take another quick look at the art right there, the box that it's popping out of, that armored box, that's the box you see on Mimigul Maker. So if you're wondering what Mimigul is being made in Mimigul Maker, here's your answer right there. It is, in fact, Mimigul Armor.
Yeah, I think I really like that. Or if your opponent controls a monster, you might think in your head, oh, Cyber Dragon.
Yeah.
But you can still control monsters and special summon this from your hand, right?
Yep.
Pretty good.
Just if your opponent controls a monster.
I like that.
It could even be one you gave them, like another Mimigul. Speaking of another Mimigul, you're going to see a lot of this next one as well. So this is Mimigul Fairy, who you might have seen before. Where did you see it before?
Well, I follow our Twitter channels, so I definitely saw what the premiere event celebration card was going to be, and it appeared right there on Mimigul Charm.
Got it right there. So this is Mimigul Fairy, buddy-buddy with Mimigul Archfiend, as you can see, as part of Mimigul Charm. And if you take a look at the condition for special summoning Fairy face up to your field, it's just if you control a Mimigul monster.
Wow.
So the key to this, I say as she has the key in the lock right there, is that it involves no input from your opponent. As long as you have a Mimigul face up, you could special summon Mimigul Fairy. It's very useful, especially if you're going first and you need to set some things up. You'll see a little bit later on, but it makes it so that drawing just Dragon is able to pull off, set up both dungeon and room at the same time, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. The flip effect is very useful sometimes, and sometimes, well, any deck that has a lot of things that special summon from the hand.
Matchup dependent?
It's matchup dependent, but in the matchups where it's good, it's really good. And the flip effect is this turn you can't activate the effects of monsters special summoned from your hand.
Kashtira just in tears right now.
Opposing Kashtira in tears. It'll be kind of a mirror match breaker if Kashtira becomes very popular as well. But it could also shut off a lot of the Tenpai dragons, for instance, that are special summoned out of the hand later on. It won't stop Genruku, though, since that's usually going to be in the draw phase before you have a chance to use a Mimigul Fairy, but cannot activate monster special summon from the hand. Where this fits in is that if you've got your Mimigul dungeon lock set up, the only monsters are going to be played are being special summoned from the hand. So if you have, the face down and you've got the dungeon, and you can flip fairy and get it over to your side of the field, but then they can't normal summon. Hopefully they can't flip the monster because you gave it to them with a room, and then any monster that they do special summon from the hand will not be able to activate its effects. So all of that together on one card that you can also use to set off your combos on your own turn if you don't need to set it up for something else. I think you're going to see a lot of fairy in Mimigal decks going forward. And you're going to see a lot of this next one in decks going forward as well. It is Mimighoul Slime. So it also has a condition to special summon face up to your field. It's if your opponent controls more monsters than you do. That's probably the least likely one that you're going to use. In fact, I am probably always trying to give this to my opponent and flip it face up. Because its flip effect is that your opponent could special summon a Mimighoul monster from your deck to their field.
Pretty good.
Your opponent in this case is you, the Mimighoul player, because you're not flipping this up on your face, on your field. Come on now. There's no level restriction on it. So you could either get one of the level 1s, you could summon a dragon to your field, so you could grab a spell or trap. But you could also summon Mimighoul Master to your field if you wanted as well, which gets you another monster to your hand and the ability to switch the battle position of your opponent's monsters during their main phase. Mimighoul Slime is a real good one. It's not going to win any awards for attack points, but that's fine because you're going to stack it on top of something else for one of the Xyz monsters, which we're going to take a look at coming up next. So starting off, we have Mimighoul Throne. Mimighoul Throne is made with 2 level 1 Mimighoul monsters. And if I told you that there's a monster that's based on the Mimighoul Throne, I bet you could guess what it's going to do.
It has to be something. I just see Mimighoul Master all over the artwork here.
Right? Like this is his seat. This is what he sits on. So of course Mimighoul Throne is going to let you special summon Mimighoul Master from your hand or deck or graveyard. You can attach a material to do that. And then during the main phase, as a quick effect, you can then have Master sit on the throne by equipping Throne to it as an equip spell that gives it plus 1,000 attack points. And then you can return cards from the field of the hand up to the number of materials that this card had on it. So if you just already had Mimighoul Master and then you made Throne and equipped it, you get to bounce 2. But if you got it out of your deck with Throne, you'd only get to bounce 1. But that's fine because it's a quick effect disruption that you can play during your opponent's turn or your turn if you need to. You just can't use both effects in the same turn. So you want to watch out for that. Generally, what you do is you special summon Master on your own turn and just keep doing your stuff. And then on your opponent's turn, when you need a disruption, you equip the Throne and bounce whatever the key card they have is. So Mimighoul Throne is the first of the Xyz monsters. It's a nice one.
Oh, this one looks so cool.
This one is, it's kind of the everything monster. It's a starter, it's a finisher, it's scary, it's cool. This is Giant Mimighoul. You can make it with any 2 level 1 monsters, so if you've got some kind of interesting deck where you're using a bunch of other level 1 special summons, they can help out to make Giant Mimighoul here. So the finisher portion of it, let's do the starter part first, and then we'll do the finisher part last.
There's a lot to unpack in this card.
So the starter part of it is that if it's a Xyz summon, you can add any Mimighoul card from your deck to your hand.
Seems like a pretty good effect.
Pretty useful. This is huge because it opens up some lines of play where you just have Dragon, and you just turn that Dragon into Dungeon and Room. So for example, you can summon your Dragon, you add Dungeon, Dungeon adds Fairy, Fairy special summon to your field, Xyz summon Giant Mimighoul, pick up Room, set Room, and there you go. You've got a Mimighoul, you've got Dungeon, you've got Room. And with the stat line here, it's 1,300 attack, 2,000 defense. That means the Giant Mimighoul will go up to 3,300 attack on your opponent's turn. So it's a very intimidating card in general. But you could also use this, let's say you started with, Dragon and Dungeon or something like that, where you already have one of the cards you needed to search. You could then go ahead and weave in Mimighoul Charm as another search as well to power up your end board, which is the promo that you already know about. We'll look at it in a little bit. But continuing with Giant Mimighoul, it has 2 big ways that are going to help you finish duels, which is something that Mimighoul decks really need. The first is that your non-Xyz Mimighouls can attack directly if your opponent has a face-down monster. So with the power of Dungeon, you can get a lot of attack points really quickly and just get them past whatever monsters your opponent has. So for example, Mimighoul Master is normally 3,000. If you stick Throne on it, it's 4,000. You can get direct with that. there are, I believe, 3 different Mimigools that have over 2,000 attack points when they're boosted up by the dungeon. Armor, for instance, is 2,100 you can get by. Dragon's 25, and Cerberus is the other one, which is 22. So if you have the equipped Master and 2 other ones, that's game right there. I think it's more likely that you just have Master and 1 of the 2,000 attackers. A lot of times it's going to be Dragon. So let's say you get 6,500 damage through in battle.
Just a little short.
Just a little short. Well, this final effect of Giant Mimighoul can finish that duel off for you. You can detach material from it, target face-up cards on the field up to the number of face-down monsters your opponent controls, destroy them, and inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent for each of the cards destroyed. So if you've got them with 2 face-down monsters, maybe you Book of Moon something, or
Book
maybe
of
you
Eclipse.
just Book of Eclipse first before you did all this.
Things get crazy.
There are a lot of ways that you can give them 2 face-down cards. But you can just make up the rest of that damage right away without giving your opponent another turn. You can do it even if they have no face-up monsters, because you can destroy your own cards with this. I'm sure that you have tribute summoned to Caius before while your opponent has less than 1,000 and just had it banish itself, right? Like, that's happened before. You can do that with, that's one of the key ways to finish things off with Giant Mimighoul. It's just a really great card that fulfills a lot of different functions, and thanks to the new flip monsters, it's a lot easier to gain materials quickly and do it either on your own turn or on your opponent's turn, or both. Like, you might play multiple copies of Giant Mimighoul, summon one to start your game and summon another one to finish it later on. It's a great card.
Yeah, I really like that you can still give them Mimighouls and then attack directly. So you go for the damage after you give them a face-down monster, and then you clean up afterwards, as you're saying. There's a lot of cool stuff to explore with the new Mimighoul cards for sure.
And moving on, the last 2 cards are 2 spells. You already know about one of them. This is the Mimighoul Charm. This is the premier card that you can win at the premier events. So once per chain during the main phase, but twice per turn, if a Mimighoul monster your opponent controls flips face up, you can randomly grab a face-down card from your extra deck, take a look at it. If it's a monster you could special summon, you special summon it to your field, but it can't use its effects that turn. And if it's not something you could special summon to your field, or something that can't be special summoned at all, you banish the card instead. Now, if you just had to use this without knowing about Giant Mimighoul, you might be like, how am I supposed to fit this into my combo? But now, thanks to Giant Mimighoul, you're not going to one-card it with Dragon, but as long as you have 2 of the things that you're looking for, you can weave this in as a result and get it on your side of the field as part of your regular line of play. You get to do it twice per turn as well, so a lot of players who are doing this at the regional level are using it with Kashtar cards as well. So you could get the Unicorn Banish, and then you can get 2 more randomly chosen, and just really start eating apart these extra decks. And that's one of the things that I think is key, is that extra decks have gotten really tight lately. There's 15 one-ofs, and you need every single one of them
Especially
to make sure.
With the Fiendsmith cards.
Yeah, especially with the Fiendsmith cards as well. So taking any of that stuff out can be just absolutely devastating, and that's where Mimighoul Charm comes in here.
Yeah, my favorite thing to note is it says they cannot activate their effects this turn.
This turn,
So
yes.
if you use it on your first turn, and then you're able to go after something like IP Masquerena, SP Little Knight, and then pass back to your opponent, those effects will be live again for you to use as well. So there's a lot of good cards you can hit.
There certainly are. And then moving on, we've got our final new Mimighoul card, and this is Mimighoul Fork. So this is target face-down monster your opponent controls. Your opponent chooses one of these effects, and you apply it. Either change it to face-up attack or defense position, or send it to the graveyard, and its owner, you, draws 2 cards. In essence, if your opponent knows that the Xyz monsters exist, and I imagine they all do now because they're definitely watching this stream, this is just going to be Destiny draw every time. You're never going to give your opponent a face-up level 1 monster, because only bad things happen if you do. But, and this is kind of a neat inversion. So like Destiny draw, you discarded Malicious, right? To draw 2 cards, then you got another Malicious. So with this, you play it, you draw 2 cards, and then instead of getting another copy of the monster, you get another copy of the spell with this second effect here, where you banish a copy from your graveyard to add another Mimighoul Fork from your deck to your hand. So I think it's a really fun little inversion of how the old Destiny draw play worked.
Yeah, and I really like the artwork with the effect of being a fork in the road, kind of where you have to go, this path is full of horrendous traps that you know something bad is going to happen, or you could go towards, the Mimic, which looks like it's appealing, but it could lead to disaster there once you reach that.
There's a bear trap right in front of it, too. Would you like the bear trap or the swinging death size? The pendulum, as it were.
It's pretty cool.
So that is going to do it for our Mimighoul new Mimighoul cards in Rage of the Abyss. There's a lot of good ones there. Giant Mimighoul, I think, is kind of like a real game changer for this. And just being able to get a lot of extra monsters off of Slime, Fairy, survivability, and more damage from armor. I think it's a nice set of cards.
Yeah, I think it definitely leaves a lot to like be explored and try out. I mean, when the cards are so open like that, where you can add any Mimighoul card and the pathing can go different ways, as long as you get to your end result, I think there's a lot to experiment with and try out and see what, how you can take your Mimighoul deck and take it to the next level. Yeah, even with that first wave, we saw people at the regional level
they were getting their invites. People are still getting their invites like that. And you might want to take a look at, just go on the card database, do a search for level 1 monsters, just see, what special summons are there? Are there some multiplicative level 1 special summons that maybe you could use? There's a lot of interesting stuff to find out there, and I hope that everybody is going to have a good time trying to explore the strategy and see if they can come up with the best way to play it. I'm sure Kangas will.
Oh, yeah, I know our commentator Kangas is a big fan, and I'm sure he's watching right now and is excited to see this. And I thank all of you for watching our intro to Rage of the Abyss. That's right. The premiere event is going to be on October 4th through the 6th at your local official tournament store. You're going to make sure you don't miss that. The set will come out and launch on October 11th, a couple of days early. That's right. It's going to be in official tournament stores on October 9th. If you went to the premiere event and didn't get all the cards you want, make sure you follow up and get them on the official release on October 9th. This week, we're also going to be having more in-depth looks at the strategy. We're going to have some of our favorite content creators like Pheromone, MST.TV, and RevsCard all look at a closer look at some of the strategies we went over here today. But I know I've had a lot of fun talking to you guys, having this live stream and being able to talk about Rage of the Abyss. I mean, I'm excited about every Yu-Gi-Oh set. This one holds a special place in my heart. I know it does for Jerome as well, as it has so much of those anime and manga tie-ins. It's a really cool set. I hope you enjoy it as much as we did working on it. We are going to be back with more YCS events, more Yu-Gi-Oh than ever. There's more ways to play than ever. So make sure you play Master Duel, play Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, and of course the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. I'm Billy Brake, Jerome McHale's here. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Make sure you don't miss Rage of the Abyss. And don't forget, it's time to duel.